Have you ever wanted to play a GTA styled game where you can get away with pretty much anything? Well, I've got good news for you, as that is exactly what Mercenaries Playground of Destruction allows you to do. This thing was developed by Pandemic Games and published by LucasArts in 2005 and was available on the PS2 and the Xbox. This is a third-person shooter set in an open-world, war-torn environment. I think the best way to describe this thing would be GTA meets Battlefield, and that combo makes for some really fun and chaotic gameplay. The plot of this game centers around the North Korean conflict. The evil General Song is the most dangerous man on Earth, having overthrown the Korean government and is now threatening the world with nuclear annihilation. American allied forces are struggling in the fight against Song's troops, and so a private military company known as X-Ops dispatches a lone agent to assist and acquire the bounty on Song's head, as well as nabbing all of his lieutenants. The story isn't the focus of this game. It merely serves to give you a reason as to why you are where you are and who your target is. The game runs on the Zero engine, which was used to power the older Star Wars Battlefront games. In terms of the visuals, it definitely looks passable, and although it's not exactly a vibrant and colourful game, the visuals do work well enough to show you just what kind of war-torn wasteland you're fighting in. The sky is dull, and what little greenery there is rather faded. The most colour you're going to see in this game is the neon signs outside the HQ of one of the 4 factions. This game does a good job of showing you that this is a country suffering through the hardships of war. The gameplay is where this thing truly shines though. As you can see, it's a third-person shooter, which really helps cement the action-oriented nature of the whole thing. At the start, you're given the choice of 3 characters to use, all of which have their own unique benefits. Matthias has increased agility, meaning that he can move faster and has an easier time avoiding enemy fire. Jennifer is the stealthy type and has a much easier time skulking about in forbidden territory undetected, which could potentially come in handy for certain missions, or if you wanted to go for something of an espionage build. And lastly, you've got my boy, Chris the Chad. Chris has the ability to regenerate his health when severely injured. You see, this game comes from the hardcore days of gaming, where players had fixed amounts of health. The only way to heal yourself in this game is with medkits. And granted, a single one will heal you back to full, but sometimes you need a little extra survivability. As a result, Chris can regenerate his health back up to 20 whenever he's hurt, which can often mean the difference between life and death. This also means that he can't be one-hit killed from full health, as he will always survive with 1 HP, giving you just enough time to kill the assailant, or to find cover. I would highly recommend that first-time players choose Chris for their first-time playthrough. Each character has their own distinct personality too. This affects the way they interact with your handler Fiona Taylor, which changes the dialogue throughout the game. Matthias, for instance, comes across as a complete psychopath. I mean, he practically jizzes in his pants at the sight of frag grenades.
M67s. I love M67s.
Jennifer is the professional, who takes her job rather seriously. And Chris is the everyday man. He's a lot more casual and laid back, and he banters with Fiona the most, suggesting that the two of them are good friends. Plus, it just makes the game that much more enjoyable.
Checked out your new PDA yet?
A little bit. Seems nicer than the one we had in Libya. Hope it's more durable.
We know you'll treat this machine a lot better.
I'll do my best.
I heard that.
The game does sadly have a 2-weapon limit. However, I think this works to the game's advantage. You've got a fairly standard roster to choose from. There's a few different assault rifles, SMGs, and a few different rocket launchers, as well as a sniper rifle and a shotgun. Sadly though, the sniper is only really all that good if you're using Jennifer, and the shotgun is about as useful as a pea shooter. It does do good damage at close range, but by the time you get close enough to kill someone, you could have just wasted them with one of your fully automatic weapons. I would highly recommend that you go for a full auto weapon and a launcher of your choice. Regardless of what loadout you go for though, replenishing ammo for all of them is done by simply walking over these ammo crates, which will refill all of your guns in a single use, and that comes in handy for keeping up the flow of the combat. As you might expect, you can use grenades in this game, and you get to use both frags and flashbangs, the latter of which will come in really handy for when you're capturing bounties. Be careful not to stand too close though, because you will get stunned as well, and when that happens to me, it just brings back all those painful memories of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer. You can also use C4 charges too, and just like in San Andreas, you can place them on a car before bailing out and remotely detonating, which is a hell of a lot of fun. Now in order to gain access to a lot of this stuff, you need money, and to get money, you need to do missions for the 4 different factions in the area. You've got the American Allies, the South Koreans, the Russian Mafia, and the Chinese military. I should also point out that each faction has a morality system. Later in the game, certain factions will become hostile towards each other, so doing missions for one could lower your standing with the other. If a faction becomes hostile towards you, you can either bribe the guard at the door to remove the hostility, or improve their standing towards you by finding certain hidden items around the world, or simply by killing Song's troops in their presence. Doing missions for these guys will not only net you a huge sum of cash, but completing a mission for them will usually provide you with intel on where one of Song's commanders is. You see, Song and his commanders make up a deck of 52. You can find the numbered cards hidden throughout the map. You can even go off and find these guys without doing missions if you want, but the royal cards are done through the other factions, and the aces have to be done through the allies. In order to get the higher ranking officers, you need to verify enough of the others first. Once you've gotten enough, you can then go for the ace, but be warned. If you go for the ace without getting the rest of whatever set of cards you're currently completing, you will miss out on the contracts for them, so keep that in mind. I should also point out that you can cancel or quit a mission at any time from the pause menu. You can verify the cards in 2 different ways. You can either kill them and take a picture of them, or you can knock them out and capture them. Taking them alive will net you double the payout for killing them, so this is the way to go for the big bucks. To knock them out, you can either stun them with a flashbang or hit them with a simple melee attack. Once you've done that, a button prompt will show up for you to take them down. And I've got to say, I love how each character has a takedown specific to them, which shows off their personality. Matthias goes full-blown psycho mode on them. Jennifer is quick and efficient, and Chris is just direct and to the point. Once they're knocked out, you can call in an allied helicopter to take them away. Now what's the point in all of this cash if we can't spend it, right? Well, once you've done the first mission for the Russian mob, you gain access to the Merchant of Menace. This is an in-game shop that allows you to buy various amounts of goodies, such as different care packages, vehicles, and airstrikes. You get access to a large summary of vehicles to choose from, but the tanks and the helicopters are where it's at. I guess I should point out that if it moves, you can hijack it. Even the helicopters, and from a surprising height too, I should mention. It's like you're fucking Spider-Man with how high you can leap. If the vehicle you want has a gunner on it, then be sure to kill them first. Otherwise, you won't be able to steal it. Also, can we take a moment to talk about just how badass that hijacking animation is for a tank? I mean, goddamn, your character does a backflip over the barrel before running along said barrel and then lobbing a grenade inside. I don't know how this doesn't render the tank inoperable, but who gives a fuck, really? The helicopters are a lot of fun, and much better than the ones in GTA. You see, unlike in those games, you don't have to keep your finger held down on the accelerator button to stay in the air. Once you're high enough, the chopper will simply hover at that specific height. Each helicopter comes with a retractable magnet, like that one mission from San Andreas. Obviously, bigger helicopters are stronger and can pick up heavier loads, which can lead to some really creative kills. If your vehicle's health falls below 20, you'll have a few seconds to bail before it explodes on your ass. When you're in a vehicle, you become disguised as whatever faction that vehicle belongs to. You can get rid of this disguise by simply honking your horn, which can also be used to command friendly troops to join you. Road trip! If you're trying to sneak into an enemy territory, be wary of commanders because they can see through your disguise, and if they're hostile, they'll shoot you on sight. Now here's the best part. This game has destructible environments. While you can't damage any of them, you can demolish almost anything. This is also why I recommend keeping a rocket launcher on you at all times, because this game has some wacky physics and can allow you to send enemies absolutely flying, and this never gets old. Now about those airstrikes, you see you have 3 different kinds you can use. There are laser guided strikes, ones that can be called in with a flare, and the satellite strikes. If you're using a laser guided strike, then be careful, because if you get shot while lining up your target, it will throw your aim off and you're going to have to refocus. The absolute best strike in the game though is the carpet bomb, which causes a massive amount of carnage over a considerable area. I mean, just watch this. I'll never get sick of that. Now, in order to keep things from getting stale, once you've captured the second ace, you get moved to a new map in order to keep things a bit fresh. Here, you also get the opportunity to swap out to a second outfit. Nice. If you ever get injured outside of a mission, you can pause the game and select the medevac option, which is going to respawn you right outside your MASH, and fully replenish your health and ammo for a measly $1,000. Just make sure that you save frequently though, as this is one of those weird games that doesn't have checkpoints or autosaving, which is a bigger pain in the ass than what I gave your mum last night. I just looked this up and this game has a ton of well-known voice actors too. You've got Peter Stormare, Jennifer Hale, Phil Lamar, and even Carl Weathers. Now that's just fucking cool. The soundtrack for this thing was composed by Chris Tilton and Michael Giacchino. I was surprised to find that this game actually has 20 different tracks in it, as I can only ever recall hearing a handful of them. They have a pretty good range to them. They range from being action-packed and suspenseful, to even featuring a choir with a more melancholic tone, highlighting the tragic environment that you're fighting in. If you don't want to do the main missions, there's also a bunch of side content for you to do as well. For instance, you can find and collect hidden items around the map, which will give you some sweet extra cash, as well as help you to unlock more stuff from the Merchant of Menace. There's also a bunch of side missions and time trials for you to partake in, and even a chop shop run by the Mafia, where you can hand over stolen cars for profit. Finding the hidden items can also unlock you some rather nifty cheat codes too. Yeah, you see, this game comes from that golden age of gaming, where not only did games have cheat codes, but cheat codes that could be unlocked. Among the basics like extra money, infinite ammo, resetting the factions back to neutral, and unlocking everything from the get-go, you've also got some cheats that reskin your character. Now it wouldn't be a LucasArts game without them including at least one Star Wars reference now, would it? And lo and behold, there is a cheat code that lets you play as Han Solo. I've got to say that this model actually looks pretty dope for the time. It's just a shame that we can't use the blaster pistol strapped to his leg. I mean, come on guys, don't you know that hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side? There's also a New Game Plus mode once you've beaten the game, allowing you to go back in and wreak as much havoc as possible, with all of your unlockables right from the get-go. You do gain access to a pretty cool hidden weapon too, which I'm not going to spoil, so you're going to have to play the game if you want to find out what that is. Now this game did get a sequel in 2008, but I never got around to checking it out, so maybe that's something for the future. If you're an Xbox player and you play on Xbox One or above, you can actually get this thing on the in-game store as cheap as chips. Now here's the summary. If you like third-person shooters, and the ability to cause as much havoc as possible, then this is the game for you. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions for games that you want to see me cover, then feel free to let me know down in the comments. And be sure to stick around if you want to see me babble on about more games in the future. And always remember to work hard and play harder. GG.